Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome to Mahogany Sweets. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. I know I'm looking a hot mess, y'all. I feel like a sauna up here in my dang on room. Sweating hair grease all over my face. But anyway, I wanted to come and talk to you guys about Joe Budden's interview on Kitchen Talk with Maino, right? So, great interview, by the way. And, oh, this other thing, I did not know that Maino had a podcast, right? And this is part of the reason why Joe had Chris Hansen on his show. Because for those who watch Chris Hansen, following him, it took them to Joe Budden, New Eyes, right? This is all business. For those who ain't checking out Chris Hansen, he went to, oh crap, shoot, that was a mosquito. I'm scared of insects or a fly. Anyway, that him going on Joe Budden brought eyes to him, so people are going to check him out. So same with Maino. I didn't even know Maino had a podcast or anything like that, but following Joe, I came across this interview, and I actually think that Joe Budden should be thinking about getting Maino on his network, because the quality of it actually isn't good, but the interview, it seems dope and cool or whatever. So Maino should probably see about that. He need Parks on his team. But anyway, so let's get into it. Maino asks Joe about Rory and Ma, and the things that Joe had to say kind of confirms the things that I was saying in my video that I did about him. Not to pat myself on the back, but yes, to pat myself on the back. Joe said that he always does the right thing the wrong way, right? So he basically was saying that where his mind and thought process was about the situation was right and in the right place, but the way that he chose to handle it, go about expressing that or whatever, he did horribly wrong. So he admitted that. Maino and the other young lady, his co-host, was like, okay, well, have you spoken to them and stuff? Joe said no, that he has not spoken to them. Maino asked would they reconcile. He said, well, I haven't spoken to them. If we speak, then I know we can go from there. So Maino also asked him about the fact, like, excuse me, Maino, crap, I just lost my train of thought. Come on, girl, you can't be messing up. Maino also asked him about the fact of, like, well, they said that you said you was going to sue them. And then Joe like, yeah, I did say that I was going to sue them. He's like, but I was just emotional in the moment. That's why I said that. He said, I have always felt that they should do something together, that they should branch out, do more things and stuff like that. He was like, so I'm in support of that. But I was in my feelings in the moment. So that's why he just threw that out there. And we all know we get angry and we say things that we don't necessarily mean. I think it was one of those things where it's like, I'm going to throw this out here because this is what I could do. You know what I'm saying? Like, pulling your trump card. Like, we do that with our spouses, our children, our friends, where we bring up and make a point when we're angry or having a dispute with someone. Like, I will have the right to do this and could do this to you, just so they know, like, okay, this is where I'm at with it. But he said he would not do that to them. He brought up the fact that takes money, time, attention, and all that. And he said, no, I ain't going to do that to them. I won't put them through that. And plus, he will have to, like, spend his own time and money and giving attention to it if he was to do it. So he nipped that in the bud. I'm not about to kill him, crucify him for telling them dudes that he do that. Clearly, in his rant, we knew he was emotional and in his feelings or whatever. You say things when you are upset, right? He also stated that, because he was first telling Maino, he like, it's not about the money. He's like, it is about the money though. Like, it's not about it, but it is about it. And we all understand what he mean about that. When we say some things come down to principle, when some things when we had disputes and odds, especially with a loved one or friend, it's a particular issue that we bring up and use as the umbrella, right? It's the umbrella, but it's a million and one things under that that is truly actually about. It's really not about the umbrella. Is what the umbrella is covering. So I understood his point about that. About, okay, it was about accounting, but it really wasn't about accounting. It really wasn't about the money. So Joe brought up the fact that he's new. He's in a new position that he's never been. In his trial and error, he's running into the wall at some points, having to run through the fire at some points. And that was one of the other things I brought up in my previous video. Just like this was a new situation and position for Rory and Maud to be in business with a friend who technically was over them, like they superior. It was new for Joe as well to be running the network, to be headlining his own podcast, doing it with friends who are friends but yet under him, co-workers, and like it was all these different levels and layers to the position each of them was in, and that's going to come through trial and error. So Joe brought up that fact that he said he wished he had done things differently. He even mentioned that he wish he had listened and stuff, but he said that concerning money, he was looking at things from the position of, I know what I was making during my rap career. I know what my checks was looking like. And they getting paid way, way more than that. So he felt and looked at it like, oh, they good. I'm taking good care of them. He said he did not look at it or know or even think that they would have an issue with anything or felt like they were being slighted in any way. I can understand him there as well. They getting paid in the top 5% to 1% of what podcasters nationwide as an A mic would make. My perception would be like, oh, you more than good. You're getting paid higher than people who are getting paid just as much as people who are in a higher position than you, that are actual A mics, that actually are the star and spearhead of a podcast or a broadcasting show or something like that. So yes, I can understand Joe's perception of thinking, y'all totally good. Y'all getting paid real good. More than what I was even making as a rapper. More than what I was making on Complex. And stuff like that. So, Joe looked at it from that standpoint. He also felt that overhead and things that money was having to come out for people who had to be paid, which was his responsibility to pay, that he did not look at that as things he had to go and sit down and discuss with them, itemize with them, like, okay, I just want y'all to know this week, this month, we had to pay this for production, we had to pay this for this venue, we had to pay this for the food budget, or like he was not thinking like, we have to pay this for lawyers, He said he wasn't looking at it like these were things he needed to come and let them know where all this money was coming out at, but he looked, hindsight is 2020. Now he is looking at things a lot differently. I felt in this interview that Joe wasn't being passive aggressive. I do not feel he was speaking in circles. I do not feel that he was being condescending in any type of way. He said that he do love them, that he loves them. He feel that if all of them was in their own room, spoke about it, would feel that the whole situation, how they felt, I was corny. He never would have foreseen that this would be how they were split, or even why they were split. Another great point that he mentioned that I respected and understood was, how did it just escape my mind that quick? And I don't even smoke weed no more. I've been quit smoking weed, and my memory's still bad. Come on. He mentioned that, now I remember. He mentioned something to the effects of, first of all, okay. In the Joe Budden Podcast Worldwide, Joe Budden Podcast Worldwide group, right? That's on Facebook. One of the things that they keep saying is he's turned into what he's always fought against, right? As him being a creator and having creative disputes, monetary disputes and stuff with labels and networks via Viacom and stuff, because I think Complex owned Viacom, and like they're saying he has now turned into the person on the other side of that. I even seen a comment where a person said that he is now speaking and doing interviews in an industry type of way, right? Media trained type of way. But they're saying these things as if this is a flaw. And one of the things that Joe brought up is there always being two sides to every coin. And he's absolutely correct in that. To speak to those who saying like, okay, he's doing interviews in an industry way now, or as if he has media training, he should be. Like, come on now, like, are y'all looking at the silly stuff y'all choosing to nitpick at? That he's doing interviews in a more sophisticated, unproblematic, refined way. Like, no, he should be. Eventually that should come. That would be smart as him. It's not only being a creator, but it's being the businessman. So I think that what y'all failing to realize and what Joe has now learned is, now that he's on the other, he's wearing the other shoe, he's now able to see things in a different way. The way he couldn't see before when he was just the creator, just the artist, right? Or just the talent. He's now understanding, okay, yeah, being on the other end of it, like he said, it's two sides to every coin. Yeah, you have the creator. You want them to have creative freedom. You want them to, give forth their talent, and they should be compensated for that. But now being on the other end, he understands that they still got to pay the lights. The lights got to be on for this creator to give what they're giving, right? There's the other side of corporate expenses. Being a businessman now, he gets that. Corporate expenses. They still have to make sure checks and balances have taken place. They can't just throw everything to the creator when they still have to pay their lawyers, right? Now Joe being the businessman, he sees that. Right, I got to pay you, but I got to pay lawyers. That's not something that you as a creator is taking into account. I have to pay production. That's not something that you as a creator have to worry about or take into account. I have to pay for wardrobe budget. That's not something you as a creator have to take into account. I have to pay for distribution. That's not something that you as a creator have to take into account. Right, you can selfishly only look at your side of the coin and say, I'm talented, I'm rendering this creative service, I want this for it. Now looking at the fact of how much even stands to be profited from it, and then the other 20 things that have to be paid or taken into account for your vision, your creativity, your talent, what we're asking you to do to even be shown or put out, done in the first place before even being put out. You get what I'm saying? Parks has to, before anything goes out, Parks is the one who has to sit there and he needs to be paid now to even put this together. Your wardrobe, your contract, lawyers got to look over contract. Like, these are things that have to be done, and these are expenses that have to be paid way before we even make $1, one profit from off of whatever talent service that we're doing, right? For example, like he mentioned, the traveling and doing shows. Yeah, we going and do this show, but before we even get to the venue that we have to pay, we gotta pay traveling, hotel setup expenses, gas, insurance for the road manager. Like, we already have accumulated probably $100,000 worth of expenses before we even get to the venue and see a dime for what we're putting out. You get what I'm saying? So I think that a lot of people want to hold against Joe his fighting his stance for creators and feel he's being hypocritical, not realizing that now him being on the other side of that, being a businessman, is not as black as white as he even once thought it is, and it's not as black and white as y'all think. And both sides of the coin are right if they're doing things with integrity and dignity in the right way. Both sides are fulfilling a need for both sides, right? The creator filling the need for the corporation, the corporation's filling the need for the creative. Both of them have their particular needs that are separate as well as joint together and stuff, and they both have their own separate expenses as well as joint. So Joe realizes and sees that now. I don't look at him as being a hypocrite or being what he stood against. I look at him and hope that as he is on the other end and he sees that he is still looking out and doing the best for the creative, he just realized now that no, the creator aren't going to get every single demand necessarily met or at the price tag that they want, because there is other expenses and other things we have to do. Rory and Mal are not the only talent that were on the Joe Budden podcast. It was 10 other people in that room doing jobs, from the sound person to the videographer to the whatever, production crew, all of that, managers, lawyers. So I just look at it like that. It's actually growth. He's not being a hypocrite. Now, he mentioned, like he said, that he has no problem with him going and doing things, right? And I believe that to be true. And he said that he looked at it as he had always been pushing and telling them and wanting them to get into their bag, which I had already told y'all about that they was not. Anyway, I believe that to be true. On the podcast, Joe Budden had continuously said for them to do that, and wanted them to do more. And I was even thinking of hoping, right, the Mixie Boys to do a separate podcast while still being on the Joe Budden podcast, and do a separate podcast on the Joe Budden network. That would have been dope and cool to see. He even mentioned, Joe has even given them ideas of different ventures both of them could do. They did not choose to budge or act on them. It didn't go anywhere. They chose to leave him and then decide that, okay, yeah, we're going to go and take his advice. Now, Joe said that maybe the reason why they weren't fully getting into their bag while on a podcast with him and stuff was maybe because they weren't happy with him or happy with the podcast. He said he has been there before, dealing with contracts, labels, execs, and stuff like that, corporations. I personally don't think that that's the case. I think that what we seen with them on the Joe Budden podcast for the last 5 years is as far as their bag goes. Now, we'll see. Time will tell if that's the case. But no, I don't see them doing a different show outside of the Joe Budden network, outside of Joe Budden podcast, and we seeing anything different than what we've already seen. Joe constantly tried to push them, pour into them, and pull out more from them. They have obliged him in that to me on the podcast when he was trying to pull them out of their norm and get them to go further. And I think that that's the best that they have to offer. But we'll see if they do something else. We'll see how much of a further bag they got. But I think that was it. I don't think that Rory and Mal were at any point holding back because they were on the Joe Budden podcast or because they had an issue with Joe. I think it was just them being comfortable within themselves, or having something to offer that would speak to why they weren't so much in their bag. But I think the times that Joe pulled them out of their bag was trying to get them to step up, like produce the show and all of that. And when they supposedly did that, I think that was the best we was going to get with that. And that's what I got to say about that. So, everything Maino asked Joe Budden about was Charlamagne. And he said, look, where do y'all stand? Are y'all friends? Are y'all beefing? What's going on with y'all? And Joe stated, like, I'm not beefing with him. He's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know where we stand. I just know I have never had an issue with him. I don't have an issue with him now. And the things that's going on, he's in the bewilderment about as well. Like, he don't know where him and Charlamagne's relationship stands. He felt that they are friends, were friends. He don't have an issue. Excuse me. Eating Raisinets. He does not have an issue with Charlamagne, and he was like, in this new day and age, I didn't know we needed to call and like check in all the time with our male friends. He's like, that's a new thing. Like, Back in the day, right? We were cool. We were cool. No matter how often we seen each other or spoke with each other, when we seen each other, it was all love. When we weren't around each other, it was still love. The way Charlamagne comes after him and attacks him, he don't know where that's coming from. So Joe Budden also mentioned, he said, look, by the time I had anything to say about or to Charlamagne, it was after several times of hearing him in shorts or him speak on my name or speak about a situation concerning me in a negative light and taking jabs. And that is actually true from what I've seen. By the time Joe would go on a rant toward Charlamagne, which to me he wasn't even going far enough, he was being real light and easy on Charlamagne. It was after us listening to Charlamagne try and drag his name through the mud, use him as the butt of jokes, take jabs at him on several occasions, and not just even with shorts on Brilliant Idiots, but even on his radio station. Charlamagne would constantly go in with negative things to say or condescending remarks, jabs at Joe Budden. And then Joe would eventually address Charlamagne. And it still, to me, was in the most friendly fire that there could be. When he would come and say, yo, man, because Joe, technically, still, when he would go on a rant to address Charlamagne, it still wasn't even technically to jab Charlamagne. It would be more so about a point or a matter to school him on. You know what I'm saying? To check him on. It wasn't even on no below the belt type stuff. It wasn't on no trying to attack Charlamagne in a personal way or even attack Charlamagne at all. It was just like, okay, this one went on long enough. Now let me address you and what the matter, the topic is. And to me, Joe Budden was handling it in a very mature, unproblematic, professional way when he would go and check Charlamagne. Because he would stay focused to the point, the subject, not even on Charlamagne, just about Charlamagne's opinion concerning what the subject was. Such as like the business deal thing. Charlamagne kept wanting to take jabs at Joe Budden on a personal, the stuff Charlamagne was doing was personal jabs, right? At Joe for stuff that was going on. And then when Joe would come and address him, Joe wasn't on no personal stuff with Charlamagne. It was always about the topic at hand. It was like, no, you want to talk about me doing bad business deals and say this is and the other. Joe spoke about the business deals and why it wasn't business deals or whatever. You know, it was just still concerning his business and checking Charlamagne on the info, false info and narratives he was throwing out there. So, yeah, Joe is correct on that. So, then Maino goes off into asking Joe Budden about Akademiks and his relationship with Akademiks, right? And Joe has stated how when he first met Akademiks, he was looking at it like, oh, who are you? You're a weirdo. What makes you think you have any credentials to, be speaking on what you speaking about? He came up off the internet and stuff. But anyway, he said that after doing the show with him and stuff, he got out of his own way, his own ego, and grew to understand and appreciate Akademiks. And he brought up the fact, like, I realized I was him back in 2001. And I was kind of thinking for a minute, like, okay, where you going with this? What you mean you was like him? And he said, because back in 2001 when he came out, he was much different from other rappers. He was on the internet. He was engaging with people. He was doing his own thing or whatever. He said a lot of the rappers looked at him like, okay, you a weirdo. Where did you come from? What gave you these credentials to think that you can just come in here and change how things are done, right? So in essence, he's saying he was a pioneer because rappers for the longest had to have this street cred, right? So even ones who wasn't from the street pretended to be from the street, be a part of gangs, all that type of stuff. They had to have an elusiveness about themselves. Be a mystery, not easily accessible. And then here you have Joe, all on the internet, being easily accessible, giving all his thoughts and opinions and stuff. They, of course, back then had to pretend to be single. They hid their girlfriends from everybody. For some reason, Fabulous was still trying to do it, pretend like he ain't have a woman. Yeah, oh right, I was gonna do a video about Fabulous and Emily B. But right, so he was doing the internet show with Tahiri, him having a girlfriend, and his average everyday Joe life, and that was completely off brand of what rappers did, how they sold their image, did, and all of that. He was totally. Oh, and he said he bet to them he looked at like a lame, a loser, a weirdo too. The same way with Akademiks, who came up off their internet speaking about hip hop stuff with these different type of opinions than the norm. And it was like, okay, where are your credentials? Where do you come from? And he said that was an epiphany. Well, he didn't use that term, right? He didn't say it was epiphany to him, but he just, a light bulb went off, like, I'm him in 2001, Akademiks. So he was mentioning how him and Ak coming together, him having to be up close, right? People in the industry was looking at him like this weirdo, this person that's out of place, this person who has no business being here. How they looked at Joe Budden back then. He said now he's having these same feelings, thoughts, and opinions where he was like, I ain't agree with anything that this dude had to say. He said, but I'm up close with him here, and it made me love him a little bit. Right? And I just think that that's so adorable. I told y'all that's what I seen with Joe and Akademiks. To me, it came off as the big brother, little, like on the show, how I read to me was where you have the big brother, the little brother. The little brother is annoying to the big brother, but the big brother, of course, still love him, taking him under his wing. He gonna throw jabs, argue with him, and son him, but it's all love. And that's also how I looked at Joe Budden's relationship with Rory. The big brother, little brother dynamic. You get what I'm saying? But anyway, so he was mentioning how he had to call people. If he wasn't calling people in the industry, rappers and stuff, they were calling him because they had an issue with Ak. And even with himself, it was a lot of people who had an issue with him. He said, because you couldn't take two other people who don't care what anyone thinks, but gonna speak the truth, speak their opinion of how they look at things, regardless of how vastly different their opinions were. They both were honest, going to speak the truth, and even though they didn't agree and butted head on some things, he looked at it. Akademiks is this new generation who don't care about any of the old rules, old school street codes, old school norms. And that this newer generation he look at is the checks and balances for the older generation. Yes, you seeing yourself. They're going to call you out with the times. Each generation adapts to that time. And it, to a degree, is a direct reflection of the older generation. Now, this is how I look at it, right? Let's get into the difference between this newer generation and the old one when it comes to music. Back then, the older generation, they glorified certain things, and they even gave room, sold themselves out in certain ways for $1, right? And now they seeing this younger generation in music, who's all they doing is just taking it 50 feet further. But y'all the ones who open up the door for music to be watered down for $1. Y'all the ones who open up the door for certain things to be glorified. And as Joe said, this newer generation is now the checks and balances for that. They're exposing y'all and what the heck y'all open the door to, what y'all allowed, that now they have just ran off with. So for them old heads who have a problem with the mumble rappers and all of that, what's the other terms y'all be calling them? These lean babies and all of that. Y'all the ones who open the door for that, for watered down music. Y'all let non-lyricists get in and blow up for $1. Y'all watered down your own raps to be able to go commercial, even though y'all had the skill set and should have stuck to y'all purity, right? Y'all did that. And now all you seeing is the floodgates. coming in. Where they like, that's what I'm gonna run with, right? I ain't got no talent, no lyricism. But hey, they turned around and did it for a quick buck. I'm gonna do the same thing. But now they wanna turn up their nose at this younger generation. Y'all the ones who bred them. I think that's somewhat what Joe trying to say. But anyway, that's what I'm trying to say. Older generation open up that door for the muckery we got going on in the business today. And same with your academics. Y'all opened up the door. Charlamagne and God, Wendy, these shock jocks, y'all opened up the doors for an academics. Y'all did it. Okay, so some people got in a little tissy fit about Maino bringing up he thinks sometimes for business, not having a friendship there works best. And Joe saying that he loves temporary relationships. And they want to throw that on basically like, okay, he wasn't real friends with Rory or Marlon or something. I think they're trying to connect it to that, when I think they missing the whole point, and that was not what Joe was specifically speaking about. Now, Maino was talking about how a person who you don't like, he can do business with, and I agree with that. I look at it like this: it could be, people should be able to be mature and wise enough to say, okay, as he stated, we got the same goal, we have the same agenda, we both have a need of each other's skill set, we can make money together, we can make change together. So although we don't like each other, don't vibe well like that, or ain't friends, I can put that aside and be on a business tip with you, and we can get the job done for the bigger picture. And yes, I think people should totally be capable of doing that, and should do that even more. Don't cut your nose to smite your face, right? You hell-bent on, I personally don't like this person, so you're going to ignore the fact that they the best person for the job and ain't going to work with them. No. Let's say if it's a community thing. We trying to do something like build a school, help the community. I should be able to look at it, I can't stand this person, but you know what? They run this construction business, or they run this educational, that like they got the lock on that. I'm going to go to them, and we going to get this job done, taking our feelings and emotions out of it, because it's a job that needs to be done that's greater than us. Or, hey, we both want to make money. I need an engineer. You need something to engineer. We can make a great product together, because you good at what you do, I'm good at what I do. So we need we both need someone. We gonna choose each other and get the job done, because you're the best person for the job, regardless of my personal feelings concerning you. That's what I looked at it, how Maino was speaking about, and I totally agree with that. I rock with that. That's why I think co-parenting is such a major thing. That's something where two people can say, we don't like each other, we can't stand each other, it didn't work for us, but I can put all that aside, because what's most important, our both goal that we both share in common, is this child, we want the best for them.